Hello everyone, welcome to YK Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Dune Part 1, with Dune Part 2 coming out next week. I'm actually going to be checking it out on the day of this video being posted, which I'm so pumped about. So before that movie comes out, let's talk about Dune Part 1 and let's get into it. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be checking out Dune Part 2 the day of this video coming out. So this coming out on Sunday. My local cinema is actually doing some fan experience with Dune Part 2. So I'm checking it out really early and I'm so pumped about that. So there's going to be two videos coming out for Dune Part 2. One is going to be non-spoiler. The other is going to be a spoiler review. So keep an eye out on both those videos. So if you are new to the channel, do consider hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like button, as we do all types of videos when it comes to movie reviews, weekly entertainment news videos, tier rankings, binge watching series, all that types of stuff. So definitely subscribe so you're not missing out on that. Now with this video, with this movie being Dune Part 1 coming out in 2021, there is going to be some spoiler aspects to it, because if you're watching this, I'm pretty sure you've seen the movie and you're anticipating Dune Part 2. So there is spoiler aspects when it comes to this, because Dune Part 1 is honestly one of the most impressive, amazing movie that gets you into this lore, gets you into this world that I personally have never heard of. I've never read the books, but after watching this movie, I was so impressed with this that I did want to be checking out the books. I wanted to make sure that there was more movies when it comes to this franchise, because it was amazing. Like, the director did such a fantastic job with it when it comes to this movie. Now, in terms of the cinematography, because this is in like the distant future, basically, the visual effects look absolutely stunning. Like, this world building that they're doing, the visual effects look amazing. The cinematography just absolutely blows your mind in terms of how great everything looks on screen. So I was just immersed in this world. I was immersed in this movie and the lore that they were building. Now I'm going to be talking about like the negatives that you could be considering because of the runtime and everything like that, and because of like how much you need to establish with this one. I don't believe the title said Dune Part 1, but you kind of established it as a first-parter. I've not seen any of the previous projects beforehand, because I know that there was like a movie that came out in the 80s of this particular franchise, and I haven't checked that out. So this was my first experience, and while it was a little bit overwhelming, it was just made so simple when you're explaining this to new audience, because you've got so much source material that you can take from the books, you can take from other types of elements to it to establish it into the big screen. Like, for example, the sequence when you have like Rebecca Ferguson and Timothée Chalamet, who you're explaining that they have this unique talent that you can control people by this voice, this tone that you get from your voice. And just even in that simple explanation and how that was worked into the movie, I thought was so simple yet so effective. The whole political element when it comes to like each individual like party or each individual family and each crew that is part of the movie, I just think works so well. So you've got like Oscar Isaac, who is like the leader, and you've got Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson as like the mother and son. I do think that Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson were the two standout characters, were the two standout casts, but you had such a star-studded cast in this movie. Like I mentioned, Oscar Isaac, Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa was in there, Dave Bautista is in there, Stellan Skarsgård is in there as a villain, which I'm so glad that we're going to be seeing him in Part 2. You got to see a little bit of Zendaya in there, but obviously she's just sort of dream sequences that Timothée Chalamet is getting, so we're going to most likely see her more in this Part 2 movie. But the cast was just so star-studded. But for me, like I said, the two standouts was Rebecca Ferguson, was Timothée Chalamet. In terms of their performances, you get that great mother and son bond. Like, those two were sort of like the main elements or the main parts of the movie that you were focusing on, from going from like the world building to the political stuff to then the third act with the invasion and the fight sequences and them trying to escape. I just loved every single bit of it. I was immersed in the journey of that and so invested in the characters. You get some great sequences towards the third act when the fighting starts, when the action sequences start. You get this little sequence of the helicopter battle, and as I mentioned, like the tone and the commanding with the tone voice, that worked really well. And then again, Jason Momoa with some great fight sequences when he eventually dies, but he's protecting Timothée Chalamet. And just the way he just goes down fighting, one of the most standout sequences in the movie, and just a way for Jason Momoa to establish himself as like a memorable character. The movie just overall is an experience that you have to witness. Now, obviously with this one, it has already come out, so it's no longer in the big screen, but I'm guessing it's going to be the same type of experience with part 2. So I'm just so looking forward to that. And honestly, with this this movie, like, it can be quite daunting when it comes to like the runtime, with the movie clocking in about 2.5 hours, but the time honestly just flies by with this movie. Yes, it's setting up a lot of like political elements in the first act, so it can be quite slow at times, but with this, the way it's explaining everything, the way it's simplifying things, and it's just getting you engaged because you're invested in the story and you're invested in the characters and the world building, the runtime just breezes by that you don't care about how slow it is at times. And then as you're building it up, especially towards getting it to that third act when everything kicks off. Now with this one, I don't remember in the title it being part 1, but the movie does end with sort of like a cliffhanger with the way Timothée Chalamet is being established into the Freeman clan, the tribe there. So then he's sort of going to his like story arc, because you get him from being Oscar Isaac's son and taking over Oscar Isaac's role as being the leader of this group, to then going on this character journey, going on this arc to now being the leader of a different tribe, and that's sort of established towards the end. So nothing is really fulfilled. Like the villain, obviously Stellan Skarsgård, who fantastic again in the role, he gets killed off with the poison that Oscar Isaac's character gets with the person that betrayed him. I believe it was the doctor of the family, gives him the tooth that he bites off and it releases a poison gas, only to establish that this guy can heal himself. The villain Stellan Skarsgård can heal himself and is now going to be established in the next movie, so he's still alive, so that hanging thread is going to be there. Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, who's now joining a new tribe, and that journey arc. So the movie is incomplete, but it builds up to something really exciting and gets you hyped for part 2. Like if you compare this to, like, for example, Zack Snyder's movie The Rebel Moon, that one was a part 1, but it just felt so rushed and incomplete, and yet this one didn't feel rushed at all, took its time, is an incomplete movie, but it's something that you're excited for, with the established characters and the established lore and storyline that can be built towards part 2. And I'm already seeing some great reviews when it comes to part 2, so it's just getting me more excited. I really cannot wait for it. And I know part 2, again, it's got like that similar runtime, but I don't care about that runtime. I could sit there and watch this for 5 hours, 6 hours, because I'm so invested with the lore, with the backstory, with the characters, that I cannot wait for this. So yeah, Dune part 1, an absolute, I wouldn't say masterpiece of course, but an absolute incredible movie experience, an incredible movie overall to just enjoy. So again, if you've seen the movie, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you excited about Dune part 2? Have you seen Dune part 1, and what are your thoughts on it? Let me know down in the comment section below. And again, keep an eye out on this channel, because we're going to do the 2 videos, the spoiler and the non-spoiler review for Dune part 2, so definitely keep your eyes peeled on that and subscribe so that you don't miss out on that video. But I thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.